Imagine this. You meet someone named John Stephenson. John has a son and a daughter. His daughter? Her last name is not Stephenson. It's Jónsdóttir. How about John's son? His last name isn't the same as his sister's either. Confused yet? In most countries, your family name connects you to generations of family history. But in Iceland, family names are banned, and they still are. Instead, everyone's last name is completely different from their parents'. Why is this so? Today, we're heading to the land of fire and ice to uncover why Iceland said, "No thanks" to family names. But first, let's briefly talk about the difference between family names versus last names. A family name refers to a shared name passed down through generations within a family, while a last name is the name that appears last in a full name. In Western countries, a last name is also often the family name. However, for countries in East Asia such as China, Japan, and South Korea, the family name comes first, not last. And how about Iceland? People in Iceland have a last name, but they do not have family names. Now let's start with the basics. In Iceland, people don't have fixed family surnames like Smith or Becker. Instead, they use a patronymic or matronymic system. This means your last name isn't inherited or passed down the generations. It is based on your parents' first name. If your father's name is John, and you're a boy, your last name is Jónsson, which literally means John's son. If you're a girl, Jónsdóttir, which means John's daughter. Simple, right? This means siblings can have different last names depending on whether they're sons or daughters. There is a third option too. Since 2019, Iceland allows people who are non-binary to use "ber" as a neutral suffix instead of son or daughter. Your last name will be Jónsdóttir in such a case. This system is called patronymy. And if you use your mother's name instead of your father's, it's called matronymy. Iceland allows both. And nope, there is no shared family name that ties everyone in a family all together. Which is why Icelandic families sometimes run into trouble at airports. Because of Iceland's unique naming system, immigration officers in other countries outside the Nordic region often get confused. This can raise red flags while traveling overseas. Especially when it comes to young children, as most countries expect family members to have matching last names. This naming tradition goes all the way back to Iceland's Viking roots in the 9th century. Back then, identity was about who your immediate family was, not your ancestral clan. As societies in Europe moved toward permanent family names in the Middle Ages, Iceland stayed rooted in the patronymic system. By the 19th century, however, European influences were creeping in. Icelanders, especially the wealthy or those influenced by Danish colonial rule, started adopting hereditary surnames. In 1855, there were 108 family names. In 1910, there were 297. This worried Icelanders who feared losing their linguistic and cultural identity. Hence, in 1925, the Icelandic government made it official. New family names were banned. Anyone who already had a hereditary family name could keep it. But going forward, no new ones could be created. From now on, names would reflect the immediate parent's name, keeping Icelandic identity personal, flexible, and tied to the present, not the past. Fast forward to today. The system is still alive and well, and very organized. Parents can choose to use either the father's name, the mother's name, or both. A few even use a grandparent's name if needed. But they must follow strict rules. First names must be approved by the Icelandic Naming Committee. Yes, there's literally a government panel that decides if a name fits Icelandic grammar and traditions. Names not previously used in Iceland must be approved by the government. This can be a challenge, especially if one of the parents of an Icelandic child isn't from Iceland. Foreign names often get rejected. Unless both parents are foreigners, the law dictates that the names of children born in Iceland must be submitted to the National Registry within 6 months of birth. And if the name is not on the approved list, the parents must seek the approval of the Icelandic Naming Committee. The committee has been challenged in court. Some say it's outdated, but supporters argue it protects the Icelandic language from disappearing. As one would expect, not everyone loves the naming restrictions. Critics say it's inflexible in a modern, globalized world. Immigrants struggle to fit into the naming structure. Icelandic-born children of foreign parents sometimes can't legally use their own family name. There are other challenges as well. The Icelandic Naming Convention causes confusion internationally. Without shared family surnames, tracing ancestry or processing paperwork abroad can get tricky. When traveling with young children, the lack of a shared family name can complicate processes like visa applications or hotel bookings. Icelanders may need to provide extra documentation, such as birth certificates or passports, to prove family relationships. In countries with standard surname conventions, Icelandic families may also face difficulties enrolling children in school or accessing healthcare, due to the mismatch in names. There is a constant need to prove familial relationships. In social settings, having different last names from your child or sibling will likely raise eyebrows amongst people not familiar with Iceland's naming conventions. This can lead to incorrect assumptions about relationships, which may be socially awkward or require frequent explanations. Iceland's unique naming system also means that some things in Icelandic society is a little different from what we expect. There is no Mr. and Mrs. Jónsson. Couples keep their own last names. Phone books are sorted by first names, not family names. Icelanders formally address others by their first names. So instead of addressing John Stephenson as Mr. Stephenson, he would be referred to as Mr. John. Because so many people are named Jónsson, Bjornsdóttir, or Olafsson in Iceland, genealogy is taken seriously. So much so that Iceland has the most comprehensive national ancestry database in the world. Believe it or not, it is said that one of its purposes is to avoid accidental dating between close relatives. There's even a dating app in Iceland that lets you check if you're secretly cousins. So, why did Iceland ban family names? To protect their language, culture, and individuality. In a world obsessed with legacy and lineage, Iceland chose something different. A living, breathing identity that evolves with each generation. However, Iceland isn't the only country in the world using a patronymic system. In Russia and other Slavic countries such as Ukraine and Bulgaria, patronymics are used as middle names. For example, Ivan Petrovich means Ivan, son of Pyotr. And Anna Petrovna means Anna, daughter of Pyotr. In Russia, people used to go without surnames or family names. Like in Iceland, Russians were typically identified by their first name and a patronymic name. It wasn't until the 18th and 19th century that family names became more common across the general population. Over time, the patronymic name evolved into a formal middle name. What do you think about Iceland's system? Should more countries embrace changeable names, or is it better to stick with family traditions? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.